Well, gentlemen, this week we talk about something that is very near and dear to the heart of one Adam Goodman, and that is marathon running. What does marathon running have to do with the law? Well, apparently, there are a lot of cheaters out there in the worlds of marathons. And we're going to get deep into what is considered cheating, what would a cheater end up having to pay price-wise, and how this is, in some ways, destroying this whole sport of marathon running. First of all, Adam, you've run the Chicago Marathon, correct?
I did. It's my big claim to fame.
I heard that somewhere once before. Did you ever hear that Adam ran the Chicago Marathon?
He posted a picture on Facebook of himself crossing the line, but another intrepid friend of ours pointed out that it seemed to have some Photoshop quality to it.
It's quite possible.
So there's not any confirmed proof that Goodman finished the Chicago Marathon in 4 hours and 50 minutes, but that's what he's claiming.
Was there cheating involved?
If anybody's interested, you can go to the Chicago Marathon app and put in my name and see a picture of me. There's actually two Adam Goodmans, one from Britain. We didn't meet, but he finished a lot better than I did.
Okay,
But Goodman, we're going to have a whole show right now about how that's possible to fake that and forge that, aren't we?
That's what we're going to talk about. But
So you're self-defeating prophecy. We're not. I have to see it to believe it.
let me tell you a bit about this year's Chicago Marathon, though, since that's where we're going to be talking about. The men's race was won by a Brit by the name of Mohammed Farah. And he's an interesting man. He's a 4-time Olympic gold medalist in Rio and London in the 5,000 and 10,000. He wasn't a marathon runner, and he's somewhat new to the sport, and Chicago was his first major marathon win. Before getting into actual cheaters, I wanted to talk about rabbits.
What's up, Doc?
No, as soon as you say rabbits, this is what I think of. Watching the old cartoons as a kid.
What's up, Doc?
And there would be the the dog races.
Well, you
and
chase rabbits.
And you'd see the dogs chasing. And it actually, in reality, in real dog racing, they have the rabbit that they chase. So this is a rabbit that they put on the track?
You know, a friend of mine owns a greyhound, a crown friend named Andreas, and he got a retired greyhound, and apparently they're actually quite lazy, but when they run, they can run.
Oh, they wind it up.
Okay.
It's just like you, the Chicago Marathon. Usually quite lazy, but you finish the Chicago
in
Marathon.
4 hours and 50 minutes.
Okay. Rabbits.
Rabbits.
Let's talk about rabbits.
Well, that's exactly what they are, Barry. You run after rabbits. And in the context of marathons, some marathons allow them and some marathons don't.
And we're not talking about an animal here.
I'm not talking about an animal. Chicago banned rabbits in
What are they?
I'm giving you the background. Chicago banned rabbits in 2015, brought them
I
back.
feel like I'm in a courtroom right now.
And brought them back this year in 2018. They are been always banned in the Boston Marathon, and you don't see them, or they're banned from the Olympics. Rabbits are pacers. They are competitors. They enter the race.
They are humans.
They are humans.
Okay, we got that settled
They
now,
are
Scott.
elite or former elite runners. They're still very fast. They will beat all of us in this race, but they're not quite at the elite level that they're going to win the race. So they are paid to run the race, and they run it at a certain pace. And what this does is when it comes to the people who want to win, the elite of the elites, it takes the strategy away from them. It means they don't need to worry about calculating what they're running at and looking at their watch and doing all these strategic calculations to figure out their pace, because these rabbits run at their pace, and all they need to do is stay consistent with the rabbits. And now at some point later in the race, the rabbit can't keep on that pace. They will taper off, and the elites will go and fight it out at the end. But for the first, maybe, I'm picking these numbers out, maybe 35 to 40 kilometers of the race, they're really just chasing these rabbits.
Is this something
The
that
whole
all
race
the
is only 40 kilometers.
42.2.
Well, so what? Why are they not elite runners if they can keep up for 35K with the leader? Can't they?
Well, they are elite runners, but they're not as elite as the guy who broke the world record in Berlin, ran it in 2 hours and 2 minutes.
They are as elite for the first 35 or the first 80% of the race.
Yeah, but they need to be elite for the
all the
entire
runners
race in order for them to win.
do all the competitors? Is this something that they're made aware of at the beginning of the race? By the way, there is going to be this rabbit.
Well, if you're amongst the small group that actually is known to have a chance at winning this race, then yes, absolutely. And in Chicago, they're actually paid by the Chicago Marathon organization.
I don't know. To me, it's it's cheating in a way.
But what's wrong with your watch saying go faster?
Well, exactly. They could just have a GPS watch that tells them their exact pace. It's just they're delegating this job to these rabbits.
The watch could clearly say, what are your thumps per minute? You should increase them or decrease them based on
the watches aren't always perfect when it comes to long races, but
these humans are?
They're still running. They're still running it in this amount of time. So is it cheating? Why is it any different than the guy or girl who yells in the rowing boat, who still gets an Olympic medal for their yelling role, or a coach at any major sport that's coaching their team?
Or what does Usain Bolt's pacer say? Just go as fast as you can until the end.
But 100 meters is probably not a pacer, but you do see pacers in shorter races.
All right, let's get down to the whole concept of cheating, and I think that the most famous case came in the 1980 Boston Marathon.
Have you been doing a lot of heavy intervals?
Someone else asked me that. I'm not sure what intervals are. What are they?
Well, intervals are track workouts that are designed to make your speed improve dramatically. And if you went from a 2:56 to a 2:31, one would normally expect that you do a lot of speed work. Is someone coaching you or advising you?
No, I advise myself.
I was amazed that you knew this, Bear.
I don't know how I knew this. It was just something that I remember. Rosie Ruiz was her name, and she finished with a time of 2 hours, 31 minutes, 56 seconds. It would have been the fastest female time in Boston Marathon history.
Do you know how they figured her out?
How did they figure her out?
Do you know, they were suspicious because they saw her at the end of the race and she just looked pretty relaxed. Me, I was on the floor icing everywhere and having the best beer I've ever had. Thank you, boss, Chicago. But Rosie was relaxed and people were a little suspicious of her.
Like the ones that finished second, third, and fourth? Now, here's the
Or others.
So, for those who are unaware, how did she cheat? What did she do to cheat?
She joined the course with only a mile to go. Witnesses saw her join.
No one is sure how she did it, but this unknown runner came out of nowhere ahead of all the other women.
I just saw someone stumble out of the crowd in front of me across the street. This was on Commonwealth Ave, probably about a half mile from the finish. She was in track clothes and wearing a number, but I thought someone had just sort of stumbled into the race. Maybe somebody was a little crazy or something.
Now you have a timer on you, so every time you go past a certain milestone, you get chipped in. Maybe they didn't have those in 19. You have a chip on you.
So it's technology to monitor you.
Well, it's monitoring that somebody is passing the milestones with a chip, but
I see.
I don't know if those existed in 1980.
Okay, so if
but witnesses saw her join the course with only a mile to go, and
now
runs
witnesses
a mile
being
and,
like the people that were in first, second, and third, because as you're running this race
Yeah.
for this many hours, you get a bit of an idea of your
Hey, I'm
surroundings.
winning. Hey, I'm winning.
Hey, and look, there's Adam
Oh, I'm
beside
not
me,
winning anymore.
and there's Scott beside me, and I know these people because we've been running alongside each other, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, who the hell are you?
This unsweaty person.
Unsweaty
passes
person
you.
just cruising on by. See ya, fellas. Is she the rabbit? No, she's the winner. You gotta wonder how this could happen.
and it still does. And there's a really fascinating website. It's called marathoninvestigation.com. And
some busybody just wants to check runners
they
out.
investigate marathons. And if you're winning the marathon and winning the tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, then I can understand, hey, we want to make sure you legitimately won the marathon. But if you're somebody that cheated so you can come in 7,000th as opposed to 6,800th, or the numbers might be a little messed up there, but 6,800th as opposed to 7,000.
Just to give people an idea, for the average major marathon, Boston, Chicago, how many runners are we talking?
Chicago had 50,000. I think Boston
Holy
might be
crap.
a little less. And a lot of the reason...
There should be an award for finishing last in that. To me, that's an accomplishment. You finish last among
You
50,000.
get the biggest applause, I think.
You still,
Right.
you still finish. You still get that beer. You still get that medal.
You get the participation medal.
Everybody gets a medal. It's a great medal.
What about the people that after the first 5 miles say, screw this, I'm going for a smoke?
You're not getting your medal.
You have to
And-
cross the finish line.
And a few days after Chicago, everybody's walking around the city with their medals on.
And you got to the opportunity to do this by a lottery, right? Like you didn't qualify based on merit, right?
I didn't qualify based on merit. Chicago, you were able to enter based on a lottery. A lot are merit based. Boston, you could get into Chicago and New York for sure by having a certain time.
Oh, I see.
Boston doesn't have a lottery. Boston, you either need to qualify by going with a tour group or for raising a lot of money for charity or for getting a certain time.
So pure merit.
Generally speaking, pure merit. The
right.
times are extremely amazing. I can't see myself even coming close to there, but I think that's what leads to a lot of these cheaters because they call it a BQ or a Boston qualifying time. And that's the amazing thing to do for a marathoner that's still recreational or amateur that's never going to win anything. They want to be able to do Boston. And you need these times to do Boston. And a part of me wonders if that's what leads to a lot of these cheaters.
So he yells out, ready, on your mark, get set, and I was so keyed up, I just took off. By the time he said go, I was 10 yards ahead of everybody.
The cheaters that are in the lower rankings really doesn't make a big deal because I'm sure there's lots of them. But when it affects the winner of the race, there is some money involved in winning this race, correct?
There's money involved in
Okay.
winning.
So if I end up finishing second because someone cheated and finished in front of me,
I think in this day
like,
and
is there
age,
any, because this is, we do talk law on this show, is there any kind of a legal precedent or any way that you can sue the person or do anything to make sure that this, like, is it a crime? Can the person be thrown in jail for cheating and you know?
There is a criminal code offense of cheat at play. It usually has to do with gambling and gaming exercises, but I'm not sure if it would ever be there. It's a type of fraud. If you forged your bib number and it hurt the integrity of the race, or if you
but why isn't it a fraud? Why
It is a fraud.
But why can't it be a criminal code fraud? You
can.
can't. You go into a bank, you give a false check. Why is it different than getting a false result at the end of a marathon?
I think you hit on it a minute ago, because if it affected the prize money, then for sure you've committed fraud.
Yeah, we're
and
talking about
forgery.
prize money. We're not talking about
And-
getting into Boston.
But that's not necessarily true, because getting into Boston means someone else isn't.
Yeah.
And if it's a commodifiable thing, whether it's you can put a number on it or not, you're dishonestly depriving somebody of that opportunity.
Any idea what ever
So-
became of Rosie Ruiz because of this? Was she tried in a court? Was she held liable for ripping off the marathon? I know that she got into some legal trouble afterwards.
Well,
She was a mess afterwards.
But Rosie Ruiz was doing this in an era before marathoninvestigation.com.
Ah.
This website, there was a bib swapper in Chicago who claimed a spot as a top 100 female. But the investigation saw this person only show a times at the 40-kilometer mark and at the finish, 42.2. No split times before that. So it raised some eyebrows. And you can go on the app and see a picture of them crossing the finish line. And it's like, that's not a female, that's a man. So outed him online. And he actually came onto social media and Facebook. And he just said, guys, my intention wasn't to cheat or to harm anybody. I trained with somebody else. I couldn't run the race. So I went and ran with them for the last 2 kilometers. I had a bib, I threw it on, and I jumped into the race. And
Where'd they get the bib?
it was somebody's bib. It was this female that wasn't able to run the race. So he put the bib on. He put the
Where did he
tacks on,
finish?
and top 100 female spot was where he finished.
Is there any? He finishes in the top 100 female spot.
I don't
Now,
think there's
is there-
prize money for that, but I mean, he's not getting anything other than the medal for being a participant, and even that, he explained, and he was very honest about it. He came onto Facebook and he said, "It wasn't my intention. I'm sorry," and he got outed for it. Whereby somebody who finished 24,000th probably would never get known for that.
And you have to wonder, we talk about intent and people who, and you look at Rosie Ruiz, and to follow up what I was saying, in 82, she was arrested for embezzling $60,000 from a real estate company where she worked. So she had it in her. She was going to cheat either in the marathon or somewhere else in life.
She's a bullshit artist by trade.
Yes.
Yes.
Another example was a twin sister.
Well, that's an interesting
has
one.
been accused of running a marathon for her other twin to get her twin into Boston. And if you go on this website, they're denying it. There's all these stories going back and forth. Another example, the Disney Marathon is notorious for course cutters. I guess somebody sneaks through, goes on Space Mountain, and ends up 10 kilometers past.
That was my high school life when we used to run marathons in high school.
But doesn't the chip have to catch you at the beginning then? Wouldn't the chip say you didn't start the race?
Well, that's a good point. So, but maybe the chips only come, I think, every 5 kilometers or so. So maybe there's ways to sort of cut through, so you still go through the chip pads.
So if there was some sort of an oxbow or a hairpin turn, you could cut off 2 miles.
Exactly. And if you know what you're doing, then
if you know the course.
Is this website a good thing? Is outing these people that really aren't getting much from it?
I think it is a good thing.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, my point is that any sport, whether you're talking about rec league softball or the Olympics or professional sports, it wants to exist in a world of integrity.
Absolutely.
It wants to have the results mean something.
But what about for me, who's really just looking to finish the race, and there's not much more to it?
Yeah, but wouldn't you feel better if you knew that there weren't cheaters out there?
But what they also include to be cheating is, let's say Scott registers and he gets hurt, and they don't allow him to transfer his bib, and I'm like, hey, I'd like to run. Can I use your bib? I'm not going to finish in a number of any value that it really matters.
As you showed in Chicago.
Using his bib.
I don't know. To me, it's like that's cheating because you didn't earn the bib. He earned it.
Well, if he got it through the lottery or he bought it,
sure.
A lot of races you just buy your way in, and if somebody just
then you're not depriving anyone.
Well, you're not depriving anybody.